Well, Satan fell. Okay. You know when he fell, that
The solar
created
system,
chaos.
maybe?
That created things all goofy up. And at that point, the chaos extended out to all the planets and the order of everything goes and flows out there. And up to that point, until Satan fell and he created war against God, basically, because he wanted to be God. That started that. Well, as a result, some of those things get out of elliptical orbit. And as a result of that chaos and everything here that he created,
Oh, wow. Very specific.
Satan did, not God. Created it perfect. Well, what happened then was a meteor about 65 million years ago hit at a place in Mexico. And it was so massive and big that it just sent this massive cloud of dust would happen. And basically it killed, the explosion killed a lot of things, obviously, instantaneously, but a dust cloud over the entire earth that was just sent it into what we would call a nuclear winter. There's no sunlight to get through, nothing. Everything suffocated, everything died. It was in total chaos. And that cloud of dust took roughly 60 years to settle. When it settled down is when you get into verse 3 is where it's going to come in there. And this was about 6,000 years ago. The 6,000 years that we have, we equate that, the Bible is, we have a historical record and accounting of time. But the time was only 6,000 years. Why wasn't we having time before that? Because time didn't exist. See, time entered the world when Satan sinned. When sin entered the world, now death and decay also came about. And we measure that time between when a person is born physically and when they die. That's what time is set up on. And prior to that, when God made Adam and Eve and created the gardens and so on, and then he rested, it was still no time. It was perfect. So at a point in time there, about 6,000 years ago, is when Adam and Eve sinned. The devil tempted them. Satan tempted them. And they left paradise on earth, literally, the Garden of Eden, and they entered into death. When you're born today, you're born into a sinful nature. And that's where death occurred. So when you accept Christ, you are now entering into a new life. Your old way has passed away. It has died. It's gone. But death is still there. So 6,000 years ago is when we have time began that we can measure. But prior to that...
Until seeing Cain. Wow.
No way of measuring all that. We're guessing at doing that, but it was there. And Jesus said it was about 3.6 billion years ago and about 65 million years ago. And then 6,000 years ago, we have a start of recorded time. And we can't do anything prior to that because it wasn't recorded time. It was non-existent. That's why those things have decayed and the bones and everything decayed so much, because it was that long ago.
So in context, and Jesus is downloading all of this to you, these age-old questions. So when in the book of Genesis, that when it speaks of God creating the earth and universe over
Heavens.
the heavens, plural, 6 days, seventh day he
Wow.
rested. So when he was explaining this to you, was he saying that that was the 6 days was somewhat metaphorical, that it was actually in the context of billions of years that he had created this? Or how did he put
Yes.
that in context?
Yes, because while he was
Until
creating
sin.
it,
Yes.
okay,
Right.
he used that
Right.
so that we could see
That's
that he did it
interesting.
not all at once, here
Mhm.
over a period of time. Now, remember, time did not begin until sin entered the world. Now, God, when he did, he reestablished the moons and the suns and stars and everything in the sky when
It
he
was
came back,
beautiful.
and then he
Right.
created, okay,
Mhm.
man, and he created everything else as in Genesis goes through. And then he said, along the way, every time he created something, he says,
Mhm.
and it was good and it was perfect, which reiterates that God only makes things that are good and perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, verse 1,
Right.
you got to look at this here and say, well, if he created this perfect, why would he create the whole thing to start with if it wasn't perfect? So there had to be, if you think about it, there had to be a cataclysmic event that created the chaos. And that was Satan falling and the
Very.
meteor and everything else that took place in those things over millions of years and billions of years. But
Very
then we
fascinating.
have this time here when he created man, and each way he said, and it was good and it was perfect. And
So
then he,
I'm sorry. So at the time of this is fascinating, by the way. This is, I mean, Jesus is just,
oh,
this
you
is a
should have seen me
download.
going like,
We're talking about Harvard, MIT education, and we've got it all composite
Okay.
here in the. So pass this on to your friends and family. We've got answers to
Billions.
age-old questions. So Adam
Right.
and Eve, first two humans created, they
I
were.
have that question
Jesus
too.
explained they were on the earth for these millions of years
Mhm.
before the fall, before they were tempted by Satan, or how long had they been on the earth?
Mhm.
he did not tell me how long they were there.
Mhm.
Once again,
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
the time that they were there is not time because they hadn't sinned yet. Now, they
Yes.
were there for a period of time that was no time that you try to measure again. It could have been, like a billion years, a million years, whatever the case may be, until they sinned. And I was going to get to that. So he created everything that was good, it was good, and it was good. And I said that it was good and perfect so that you understand he
Mhm.
created it. And Satan's the one that caused the chaos, but he still had it as good and perfect. When he
Mhm.
rested on the seventh day, he said it was all good. Time still had not begun. Okay.
Okay.
He's still resting. Now, everything is done and created and perfect. And now Satan, going to disrupt it again, he comes into the picture. And now sin enters the picture. And that's when the actual time began. So, for purposes, let me just say that if you could put a year of time
Right.
when time did not exist, the period from when Adam and Eve
Yes.
were
Yes.
first brought into the Garden of Eden until sin entered could very conceivably been, if we wanted to measure it, 1,000,000 years, 1 billion years. There's no way that you could conceivably
Yes.
understand or know or pinpoint it. It's one of those mysteries of God that he says it's not important to you because time did not exist.
Mm-hmm.
And you take that as understanding that is what heaven is like. Time does not exist.
Yes.
But when sin entered the
If you think
world,
about it,
time
time is
began.
like a
So
measure
that
of
billion
death.
years that they were there, they were
So
walking
wherever
peacefully. Could have been 2
time
weeks. I don't
is,
know.
wherever time is,
But
there is death.
from the moment
Because,
sin entered,
like I said, it's a measure of
that was about
death.
6,000 years
It
ago.
means that there is an end, and death means an end, I think, for lack of a better term. But I have some questions from what he's saying. I want to know okay, yeah, I know the Bible talks about how Satan fell from heaven or was cast down. So when Satan fell from heaven, he fell onto the earth. But then he says a meteor was cast onto the earth, but a meteor hit the earth as well. So my question is, where did the meteor come from? That's what I'll ask Jesus. I'm curious about that. And yes, I want to also ask, since Adam and Eve were here for that long, it's not possible that they were the only ones. Yes, they might have been the first ones here or created beings, but they could not have been the only ones. So I'm curious to want to know. I'm assuming that there were other created beings besides Adam and Eve that were here after Adam and Eve, I guess, because when you think about what the Bible says, when um, when Cain killed Abel and God marked him that no one was going to kill him, that statement, no one was going to kill him, tells you that there were people there. They're like, no one's going to kill him means there is someone that is able to kill him, right? And when Cain complained to God that, like, because of the punishment you've put on me, or the curse you put on me, people kill him, and then God put that mark on him that no one was going to kill him, tells me and tells anyone that has a curious mind that yes, there were other human beings. I'll assume human beings. No, there were definitely the other beings besides humans that were on the earth. But my curiosity wants it to be pinpointed that there were human beings besides Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel at that time. Because obviously, from what he's saying, Jesus said that the earth has been in existence for 3.6. That's a very specific time, 3.6 billion years. And then in the last 65 million years is when the meteor hit the earth in Mexico, to be specific. That's so funny. And then it took 65 million years for that thing to settle, I guess, that killed a lot of things. And then time started about 6,000 years ago when the devil, who was already cast down to the earth, tempted Adam and Eve and they fell, right? And that's when sin came into the world, death came as well. And wherever there is death, there seems to be time, or vice versa, say. Anyway, this is my summary of what he's saying, which is beautiful. But I'll like you guys to watch this guy, watch this interview. Let's okay.
So that's where we get that 6,000 years, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, watch this. This is what's really, really cool. No time, Satan, disruption, sin, death. He conquers Satan
Right.
again.
Disrupt.
And we entered into heaven with
Right.
him with no sin, no time, just like before. And it's all eternal now. So he's taking us through the thing. Only this time, Satan is not around to enter sin again.
Yes.
That's heaven. See, he took the whole thing and walked us right through and got us back to heaven. We were all part of the war with Satan. When Satan fell and he was going to take over and be God, Jesus showed him he's not.
Yes. And on the cross, he took the atonement for the penalty of sin upon himself. So when this is absolutely, again, fascinating because, and the reason I think it's hard for us to get our heads around, and I concur with you because that's as I knew the same when I was in heaven after I died, is we think in terms of time periods.
Yes.
And that's how we mark things. Okay, this happened 10 years ago. This happened, 50 years ago, whatever. That's irrelevant in the scheme of eternity. So the paradigm is one where, we want to just fixate on when did this happen and how could this have happened in a period of time. And then the other, I don't know if Jesus explained to you, the different races that we have, and the different, we had Cain and Abel, the offspring of Adam and Eve. And then one was, the eldest was killed. And so we had this expanse then during this period of time. Did he talk at all about how that kind of bore out in terms of the variety of people that we see today in different places?
Sure. Very simply, remember, sin entered the world, and where there's sin, there's decay, there's deformities, there's chaos. So as a result, some people went one way, some people went the other way. And
Really?
they have adapted. Your body adapts to the environment that you're in. You may develop dark skin because of that. Over the time, your pigmentations and stuff change. What actually causes all of that? I can't explain it, because I can't explain how my brain controls my body here. I mean, people talk differently, they act differently in different areas, and that's just the way that they are, because everybody's individualized.
Yeah.
He didn't make a cookie cutter person. So when he made the people,
That's
they're all
right.
the same people. But he decided, why did he give you blonde hair and give me black hair? Why do you have blue eyes and I have brown eyes?
Right.
Why do some people have big noses and others have small ones? Why are some people not? It doesn't make, that's
Right.
irrelevant. We've established what race is.
Beautiful.
We've established and called that because they're different from us. We don't understand
race,
that.
but there are different cultures.
We don't want to, because that's not like me. I don't
keep
understand. That's why
telling people that I have deep conversations
But
like
there
this
is
with
only
that
one race, and
what
that's
makes the
man.
difference
That's
is not
human.
the race.
But of course, it's women too.
It's
But
the
I mean,
culture.
see what I'm saying?
The
Yeah.
culture
So
is a
people say,
way
well,
of
how?
life. If you raise a quote unquote white person in a quote unquote black environment, the culture that is in that environment will influence them, and vice versa. So it's not the race that makes the difference. It's not a pigmentation of the skin that makes the difference. It's the culture within that environment that makes the difference. So we fight against the culture because we should be subject to only one culture, and it's Jesus's culture. So that's how it should be preached or taught in church.
How come this race is like this, or how come they did that? That's just your human nature.
Ethnicity.
not
Right.
godly nature.
Absolutely, I concur, because in heaven that means nothing, and I will talk to a brother or a sister who's of a different ethnicity or whatever, and we're like one family. And somebody will say, well, that person is such and such, and I say, really? I didn't even notice. That was like it's nothing. It's nothing to God. We're all that one family. What was the probably the greatest epiphany for you that happened, Robert, in Jesus explaining all of these mysteries to you? What was the one that kind of surprised you the most?
I think it's the combination of everything. The fact of that, the way he has worked out. We say we're amazed that our brain is functional, our body functions. That's a miracle in itself, and only God could create a brain like that. Instant seconds, it does 20 trillion calculations a minute, and everything's wired together. But the thing that made me the most in awe is the combination of all of this, of how he has orchestrated all of this together, and that he not only knows our past thoughts, our current thoughts, our present thoughts, but individual, and how heaven functions is what amazed me the most, because he has worked out every tiny detail to where there can be absolutely perfection. For an example, communicating with your pets. That's amazing. We can't do that, but he does. He made that possible for us. When a person dies and they're in heaven, your
I
loved
know why
ones
he
are
said
gone.
that, but I'm not gonna
He
address
makes
it.
sure that they cannot remember. They don't remember anybody or anything down here. They cannot, contrary to what some people think, they cannot look down upon you. They cannot interfere, because in heaven there's no worry, no strife, no anguish, none of that. And if they could look down on you, they
Right.
would worry, they would grieve, they would want to interfere. They can't. So he
So I'm
blocks
gonna
that
stop
from
here
them.
because it's
But
a
yet he keeps
2 hour
all that
long
memory alive.
video, and I'll encourage you
And he
guys to
keeps
go
that
watch
because the
it.
instant
The name
that
of the
you
channel is
are
Randy
with your
K.
loved
Randy
one,
K died and
it will
went to
be like
heaven and
you were
and
there all
came
the time.
back, and he started
That was
his
one that just
ministry
amazes
is
me.
interviewing and talking to people that have had near death experiences or died and seen heaven and hell and things like that. So I've watched so many of his videos. He's an awesome man. So I'll definitely recommend you go watch it. It's titled "I Died for 44 Hours." Randy K. Type it in your YouTube search. In the meantime, if you have any comments you want to share on this, some of you doubt it. Obviously, we know that. But if you disagree with me, agree with me, doesn't matter. Feel free to reach out and make your thoughts known to us. Okay, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, etc., etc. Follow us on social media, subscribe or whatever. But yeah, my name is Great Akudo, and I'll see you on the next video. This is the Akudo experience. Talk to you later. Bye bye. And that worked. Look at you. They fixed the issue, bro.